Part D, Day 3, the first of two videos regarding Day 3 of the Chronology of Humanity, prepared by Father and Son team, George and Dana Brown. Quote, "Happy is the man that findeth wisdom, and the man that getteth understanding." Unquote. Proverbs 3:13. Three very important days of humanity's chronology are the millennial days 3, 4, and 5, which include the birth of Abraham and his children, Phoenicia, the four temples, the period of kings, the role of Alexander and his four generals, Jewry's three revolts, the Messiah and the two witnesses, Christianity and Islam, the beginning of a time, times, and a half time unto the latter harvest. Now, calendar conversion standards have been provided here. The conversion factor 4005 for BC years and 4004 for AD years. These are to be applied for converting BC and AD years to years from creation and vice versa, according to this little box we have below. Day 3, 2001 to 3000 from creation. Abraham's children reign and prosper. Abraham was born in 2008 from creation. Now, earlier, Noah was born in 1056 on the second day, and he died in 2006 on the beginning of the third day. So the Phoenician Empire originated by Abraham's children about 2150 from creation. That puts it in the beginning of the third day. And FC, of course, equals years from creation. So the Phoenicians prospered. Exploration, colonization, mercantile operations, and shipbuilding flourished under the Phoenicians during Day 3. Now, the birth of Abraham. But first, let's look at these rivers here. The Nile River on the left, the Gihon. The Jordan River, the Pison, is shown here. But the Jordan River is only a little trickle compared to what it used to be when the Great Rift occurred that extends all the way from Russia on down into South Africa. The Great Rift swallowed up most of the Jordan River. And then we have Mesopotamia. The land between the two waters is the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. So we have all the way from Haran down to Ur. And the fourth river is the Hiddekel, the Indus River, which is east. Note again, it's east of Assyria. Okay, Terah was dispatched to Mesopotamia in the days of Peleg from Hebron. So Terah went up, Haran down to Ur. And this is why Abraham was born in Ur, because Terah was among those that were dispatched to Mesopotamia to reinstall righteousness. People were sent in the days of Peleg to the four river regions to reinstall righteousness. So Abraham was born in Ur at 2008 from creation. Now, Abraham sojourned to Hebron to receive custody of the original Holy Ark. Now, Abraham arrived in Hebron about 2084. So we have Abraham's journey here. He started with Terah. Terah was bringing Abraham back to Canaan, the land of Canaan. And in Haran, of course, Abraham's older brother had died. And when Terah reached Haran, Terah died. And that's when the Lord told Abraham to continue down to Canaan when Abraham was age 75. So he arrived in Hebron apparently about 2084 when he was about 76. So the historic name change of Abram became Abraham at age 99 now. This is quite a while after his journey down there. He journeyed down, went down to Egypt, and came back up and so forth. Now, when Ishmael was age 13, that's when Abraham was 99. This occurred in 2107 from creation, 1 year before Isaac was born. So in the diagram below, you see Abraham 99 years old and Ishmael was 13 years old in 2107. And that's when the Lord renamed Abram to Abraham. And 1 year later, Isaac was born in 2108. So Abraham means to be populous, father of a multitude, where Abram means high father. That is sort of like the ruler. All right, the covenant was given Abraham at age 99 in 2107. Now, Abraham had 3 visitors. There's God Almighty in the center, and on the left was Satan, and on his right was Jesus. And that's in Genesis 18, 1-3. And also see 1 Kings 22:19. It speaks of God with his left and his right. So that's Abraham's 3 visitors. Now this began a period of 430 years, which concluded when the law was given Moses at Sinai. That's Exodus 12:40-41, speaks of 430 years. And the law was given Moses at Sinai in 2537. So we're talking about a period of 2107 to 2537 from creation. So historic blessings were bestowed during day 3, beginning with Abraham in Hebron. The blessings upon Abraham now. Abraham was blessed because he obeyed God. Blessings upon Abraham's seed. It didn't have to be in the royal lineage, that just Abraham's seed. And blessings upon Ishmael. Blessings upon Isaac. And blessings upon Jacob, who was renamed Israel. And blessings upon Keturah's 6 sons. And blessings upon Joseph and Joseph's sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. Abraham conveyed the inheritance with blessings to Isaac, Genesis 26:3-4. And blessings upon Abraham, his seed, and his heirs. Quote, "And I will bless them that bless thee, and curse him that curseth thee. And in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed." Genesis 12:3. Abraham's seed to multiply. "And I, God, will make thy seed as the dust of the earth, so that if a man can number the dust of the earth, then shall thy seed also be numbered." In other words, you can't number the dust of the earth. There's no way. Genesis 13, verse 16, and 15, verse 5. God made Abraham very prosperous. Genesis 24:35-37. Day 3 begins in 2001. That's when Abraham was born in Ur in 2008. Now, 75 years from the birth of Abraham unto Terah's death. And Terah, Abraham's father, died in Haran in 2083 from creation. And a year later, Abraham arrives in Hebron, about 2084 from creation. God appears to Abraham at age 99, 2107 from creation. Abraham renamed Abraham in Mamre in Hebron. So the plain of Mamre in Hebron means bitterness. Now here we have the 430 years, Exodus 12:40 to 41, unto Moses' arrival at Sinai. Abraham dies at age 175 and 2183 from creation. Genesis 25:7. The transmission of blessings. Okay, now we have blessings upon Hagar and Ishmael. Ishmael is Abraham's seed. And on the right we have Keturah, Abraham's concubine. So we have the 6 sons of Abraham through his concubine. They're not actually Abraham's sons, they're sons of Keturah's initial husband. There's Zimran, Jokshan, Medan, Midian, Ishbak, and Shua. Genesis 25:5 and 6. Okay, now in the center, in the blue now, we have Sarah, Abraham's wife. And when Abraham was 100 years old, Isaac was born. And Isaac took Rebekah, Laban's sister, to wife, and Rebekah begat twins, Esau and Jacob. Esau was the firstborn, and Jacob was the second. He took hold of Esau's heel. So Jacob was renamed Israel, meaning he will rule as God. Now we have an interesting situation here. We have Genesis 32:28, where Jacob wrestled with God, Peniel. And Peniel means the face of God, the appearance of God, not God. So who was Jacob wrestling with? God's left hand, apparently. Satan, who wandering the world here. In Genesis 35:9 to 13, you have God Almighty himself renamed Jacob. Jacob didn't have to do anything to get that renaming, meaning he will rule as God. God pronounced it on him, and he didn't have to pay for it in any way whatsoever. Okay, now we have Esau, who sold his birthright to Jacob, and then Jacob being renamed Israel. Israel begat different people now. Leah was his first wife, and Leah begat Reuben, Judah, Simon, and Issachar, Levi, and Zebulun, and Dinah, a daughter. Now, Rachel, whom Jacob really loved, begat Joseph, and then later on she begat Benjamin in Bethlehem. Now, Joseph and Leah's sons, along with the concubines, Bilhah and Zilpah. Bilhah begat Dan and Naphtali, and Zilpah begat Gad and Asher. The children of the concubines belonged to the concubine's dead husband as sons and heirs. So we have all these children begotten in Haran. Now, Jacob fled to Haran, and he married Leah and Rachel and took their concubines, their handmaids, as concubines. So Bilhah and Zilpah. So he had all these children born up there except for Benjamin. And Benjamin was born when they reached Bethlehem. Esau's birthright now. Abraham's son Isaac normally would have conveyed the birthright to Esau, the firstborn by birth. Genesis 25:25. The birthright was forsaken. However, Esau gave his birthright to Jacob. He sold it to Esau's twin brother for a bowl of pottage. Genesis 25, verses 26 to 34. Now the inheritance from Abraham to Isaac, to Jacob, to Joseph's sons, conveyed special blessings as part of the inheritance. So when Esau forsook his inheritance, he also forsook the blessings that went with the inheritance. However, Jacob purportedly went through a charade of lies and falsehoods to get Isaac to physically bless him Genesis 27, verses 1 to 46. Now, in God's eyes, lies and falsehoods do not beget blessings. There's no way you can get it through using lies and falsehoods. Pursuant to God's laws, a charade of lies and falsehoods cannot acquire God's blessings for anyone. Again, in Jacob's situation, he already had received Esau's inheritance and the blessings that went with the inheritance. The charade only opened the door to subsequent events. While in Haran, Jacob, of course, fled to Haran, to the home of Laban, Rebekah's brother, Genesis 27, verse 43. He fled to Haran to get away from Esau, who was ready to kill him. Therefore, Jacob married Laban's two daughters, Leah and Rachel, and apparently took their two handmaids, Zilpah and Bilhah, as his concubines, Genesis 29, verse 15 to Genesis 30:27. It explains this whole show. And also 35:16 to 20. And 35:22 clearly establishes that Bilhah was Jacob's concubine. Later, Benjamin, of course, was born in Bethlehem when they arrived at Bethlehem from Haran. Dan and Naphtali are seeds of Jacob given to Bilhah, his concubine. However, in the last days, Dan shall judge his people as one of the tribes of Israel. Dan is in Israel, but shall judge his people as one of the tribes of Israel. Genesis 49, 1 and 16. Now, the role of the concubine, a widow who remarries, quote, to raise up the name of the dead upon his inheritance, that the name of the dead be not cut off from among his brethren, unquote. That's Ruth 4:10. Read Ruth 4:10. Why Judah had no legitimate heirs. Malachi 2:11 and 12, and Genesis 38, 1 to 30 explains the whole situation. Now, Judah married a Canaanitish girl, a harlot, called Shua. Now, Genesis 24, 3 and 37, Genesis 26, 34 and 35, and 28, 1 and 6 explain that Abraham and Isaac pointed out that marrying a Canaanite woman was not for their sons. And the reason being is that the Canaanite represented or symbolized the harlot. Okay, Judah disregarded. Judah married Shua, a harlot, and begot Er, who died. He married Tamar first, and Onan was told to go into Tamar and to raise seed unto his brother Onan spilled his seed on the ground to avoid giving Judah's inheritance. He wanted it himself. Okay, now Shelah was promised to Tamar, but Shelah grew up and went his way, and Tamar was left with no husband and no children. So Tamar played the harlot, and Judah went into his daughter-in-law, which is definitely whoredom, according to Leviticus 20, verse 12 and 18:15. And the twins begotten were Pharez and Sarah. Now, Deuteronomy tells us that the son of a harlot won't enter the kingdom for 10 generations. Now, the role of the concubine, again, is a widow who remarries. And Onan knew that the seed should not be his. And it came to pass, when he went in unto his dead brother's wife, that he spilled it on the ground, lest that he should give seed to his brother. See Genesis 38, verses 7 to 10. So Jacob's concubines now, Bilhah, Rachel's handmaid, had been clearly identified as Jacob's concubine, Genesis 35:22. Therefore, under God, Dan and Naphtali, the sons born to Bilhah, are the legitimate sons and heirs of the deceased husband of Bilhah. Now, the same appears to be the case for Zilpah, Leah's handmaid, as the practice for widows was to become handmaids and or concubines. Circumcision mandate now in the flesh is specified. A covenant of the circumcision is a token of the covenant, and the uncircumcised in the flesh will have broken the covenant. Genesis 17, verses 6 to 14. Thus, if they're not circumcised, they're not going to enter the kingdom. So it behooves everyone to become circumcised, all males. Abraham to become the progenitor of a great and mighty nation. That's the Southland, the eternal kingdom. Genesis 18:18. Again, this is very important. Abraham is to become the progenitor of a great and mighty nation, the Southland, the eternal kingdom. Now, everyone has been invited to the wedding, to become part of the wedding, but most people are rejecting the invitation, so they won't make it in these latter days that are now ongoing. So the great and mighty nation will be made up of all peoples. It's called the Southland as opposed to the land of the North. Everybody is living in the land of the North today. They're put there in the fourth day. All right, Joseph's brothers sold Joseph into slavery to the Ishmaelites, Genesis 37, verse 25 to 28. Okay, Ishmaelites took Joseph when Joseph was age 17, took him down to Egypt and sold him to Potiphar, Pharaoh's captain of his guard. The great and mighty eternal kingdom. Abraham shall surely become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him. Genesis 18:18 and chapter 22, verse 17 and 18. Blessings upon Ishmael. Quote, and for Ishmael, behold, I, God, have blessed him, and I will make him fruitful, and will multiply him exceedingly. 12 princes shall he beget, and I will make him a great nation. Unquote. Genesis 17, verse 20, and 21, verse 18, and 25, verses 12 to 18. So we can see that great nation of Ishmael. In the Arab nations, there's 12 princes, and the oil production has made them very, very wealthy. So the Arab peoples, as children of Ishmael, they're playing the role, if they're not necessarily Ishmael's legitimate lineage, but they're playing the role of Ishmael. But they are welcome into the wedding in these end days, just like anyone else. It's obedience is what counts. Now, the royal lineage, of course, is through Joseph and Manasseh and Ephraim. Now, Ephraim is the youngest. He was raised above Manasseh, Genesis 48, 5 to 20. Okay, Ephraim then begot, the lineage of Ephraim begot Elimelech, who married Naomi. And Naomi had begot Elimelech 2 sons, Mahlon and Chilon, or Chilon. And Chilon married Orpha, and he died. And Mahlon married Ruth, and he died. But Mahlon was the royal lineage. So Ruth then married Boaz as Boaz's concubine. Boaz took Ruth as his concubine to raise heirs unto Mahlon. Now, who was Boaz? You have Judah's whoredom with Tamar. So that cuts off Pharez, one of the children, twins born, Pharez and Zerah, to Tamar due to Judah's whoredom. And they're cut off because they're from Judah's whoredom. That's Genesis 38, 1 to 30, and Leviticus 20, verse 12. Now the seventh generation, counting Pharez as one, was Boaz from this lineage. And Boaz gave seed to Ruth, who begot Obed. And Obed was a lineage of Ephraim. And Obed begat Jesse, and Jesse begat David. So we have Boaz, who took Ruth, Mahalon's widow, to raise Obed as Mahalon's heir. Now Judah was cut off, of course, had no legitimate heirs. Judah hath dealt treacherously, and an abomination is committed in Israel and in Jerusalem. For Judah hath profaned the holiness of the Lord, which he loved, and hath married the daughter of a strange god. The Lord will cut off the man that doeth this. Malachi 2, verses 11 and 12. Now, a forbidden union between Judah and Tamar, his daughter-in-law, Judah's whoredom with Tamar, Genesis 38, 1 to 30, beget Pharez and Zerah, twins, and they're not Israelites. They are cut off. Again, we have Leviticus 20, verse 12, and Malachi 2, 11 and 12. So Boaz, the seventh generation from Pharez, he took Ruth as his concubine. Judah represents this disobedient world. It's been carried down even in Scripture, representing this disobedient world. And David was king of Judah, but David was an Ephrathite, yet he was called king of Judah, this disobedient world. Now Jesus is of the royal lineage. You have Ephraim, Elimelech, Mahalon, of course Ruth and Boaz enter there, and Obed, Jesse, David, and the lineage continues down to Jesus. And we begin day 5 there. The end of day 3, the beginning of day 4 was with Jesse. And a few references here now. Genesis 38, 7 to 10, Ruth 4, verse 10, and 1 Samuel 17, verse 12. That speaks of David, and then David's experience with Goliath and so forth, if you continue reading 1 Samuel 17. Now the lineage of Ephrathites, Ephraim was blessed above all his brethren. And then Jesus Christ began day 5. He came down as man to teach righteousness. But people didn't pay any attention to him, and they're still not paying any attention. So we begin day 5 there with Jesus. And then the end of day 6 and the beginning of day 7 is with the chief human shepherd. The eternal kingdom now is being formed. But people still don't want to pay attention to God's laws. This completes part 1 of day 3, the chronology of humanity.